So hello everyone and welcome to this new video. I'm here again at the Regional Writing Center at Limerick University with the director of the Writing Center, Lawrence Cleary. So let's continue where we stopped yesterday. Yeah. So we talked about the elements or the framework that you use here in the Writing Center to talk about writing.
Yes.
Yeah, so we talked about writer-based writing and how students should go about research before or preparing for the writing phase. And then we also talked about the processes of writing, note-taking, drafting, etc. So then we went to reader-based writing, and I asked you something. I said, what would you tell students who focus a lot on the language that they forget about argumentation?
The argument. I mean, that's something that's unique to the academic context, right? You don't write a letter to your mother and make an argument. Sometimes you argue with your mother, but you don't say, I got to write an argument to my mother. But in an academic context, we generally either try to take a position on a contested point, or we try to understand something that's not well understood, and so we have to make a case.
That's it.
This is reality, and that we're trying to make a case for what is real and what is not real. We assume that when we put 2 and 2 together, they equal 4, and so that's reality, right? But there's a lot of issues out there where we really don't have a clear answer, and so or maybe a clear way to finding an answer, so we have to try to maybe make a case that this is the best way to go about it, or this is the best answer we can get at this point in time, or this is the best position to take on some sort of an ethical issue or something like that. And so that's something we do in academic context. So a lot of times we will get students who come into the Writing Center who will be worried about having perfect English, which doesn't exist, by the way. But nevertheless, they want perfect English. And of course, their job should be more focused on making a good case, and then we can talk about the language afterwards. Like when we go from writer-based writing, where we're kind of just trying to figure out what we're trying to say, that's where the argument should start. They should develop an argument. It doesn't have to be beautiful. It doesn't have to be prosaic. You just try to get it more and more organized as you go. And at some point you're going to say, okay, I know what I'm trying to say here. Now let's think about my audience. And then you start focusing on the language, the register, which is really the language, like choosing the words that are going to be most appropriate to the audience that is receiving the document, right? Because we want this paper to do what we want it to do. And it's going to get a better grade. I think that this is a theory. I don't really know this is a fact, but my experience is that when you write a paper, if you write a paper to your teacher, it's not going to do well. If you write a paper to the audience that talks about the problem that you're talking about, that usually does much better, because basically what you're doing is saying, I'm engaging in this conversation with these people who are experts in my field, and I'm taking in what they're telling me. I'm being skeptical like a good scientist, I'm kind of like going, okay, maybe. Maybe I'm checking it out, I'm looking for people maybe who make arguments against those people to see if there's some sort of legitimate reason to be suspicious about their conclusions,
To get the bigger picture.
Get the bigger picture, have a more realistic view of things, not be enthusiastic about a particular way of thinking about something, but more enthusiastic about being a good scientist. And I use that term very loosely. I'm thinking about even in literary studies or in linguistics, you have to be a good scientist. You have to have evidence that people in your field respect. So when you make a case, if you make a case, you have to say, here's the evidence. And that evidence has to be something that they respect.
Especially if they are famous people in your field.
In my field, it's more authorities. I'm relying on authorities. So if let's say that I'm examining a poem or something like that, I'm going to say, well, according to Seamus Heaney, X is true,
Yeah.
right? And everybody goes, oh, Seamus Heaney, famous Irish poet, you know?
Yeah.
He's kind of like the Einstein of poetry, right?
Yeah.
And so everybody goes, oh, yeah, if Seamus Heaney said it, it must be so, right?
Yeah.
But he's a very well-respected person, and well, he was. He's dead now, but at the time he was very well-respected. He's still respected. He's just in posthumously.
Yeah.
And then if you're in engineering, for instance, you're more reliant on physical realities. So let's say you're testing the strength of a particular alloy, and so you're going to do some sort of stress on it to see what its breaking point is, and if that stress is measured in pounds per square inch or something like that. And so once it breaks, they record it, and that's the fact, right? Yeah. And so they're relying on factual pieces of information to say this is how much stress it can take before it breaks. And so therefore, based on that, we can use it to build bridges, or we can use it to build cars, or we can use it to build bicycles, or something like that. Yeah. Yeah.
So evidence.
Yeah, that's the evidence they use. Yeah.
Good. So to get closer to the context that I told you about, is
about
with
essay the exams,
writing.
Yeah.
So you have similar thing here. You said about the essay competition that you told me about.
Yeah, but that's not like an essay exam.
It's not.
No.
But the structure of the essay should be like similar, because the concept is similar. You gave them a prompt, right?
Yeah. And
they are trying to take a stance
in the exams that you're talking about, and these are, I'm assuming, are these about linguistics? All of these prompts?
Yeah, can be linguistics.
Right. So there's some things that might be a prompt that might be trying to ask you to explain. Let's say the past progressive or something like that. I don't really know what these prompts are like.
Not these kind of questions.
Are they mostly about how to teach?
Yeah. Some of them.
So that's always going to be an opinion.
Yeah.
Right, because there is no facts.
Yeah, but what I want to say is I want you to stick to your context and tell me, you'll be the one evaluating the papers, right? So as an examiner, as an evaluator, what are the things that you will look for, or...
I can show you.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Show us.
If we go to our website, Center and essay competition. It's under the category fun stuff.
Oh.
It's a fun thing to do.
It's not fun at all.
Yeah. Oh, it is fun. It's very much fun. Okay, there's identification sheet. Okay, so here's the criteria for winning essays. So the criteria is the writer approaches the prompt with a unique perspective. So people who approach a problem in a way that's kind of unique, something different than what, let's say we get 75 essays, and they all sound exactly the same, except for this one. This one is, this is a different idea, a different way of approaching this, right? Yes. Well-organized argument, that's the second most important thing. So the first thing is that it takes a unique position. And the second thing is, or at least it approaches it in a unique way. The second thing is they develop a really organized argument. It's a well-organized argument. The third thing is that the appeals that they make to the reader are compelling, right? So in academics, we try to appeal to people's sense of reason, but they're not restricted to that. They can appeal to people's emotions. They can appeal to people's sense of the ridiculousness of something, right?
I got it.
But if they do it, is it compelling? In other words, like let's say they're appealing to my emotion, and I'm going, I don't feel that. Then that's not compelling.
So you failed.
Yeah, they're appealing to emotion that I don't have, right? So that doesn't work, right? They have to appeal to something that I go, oh yeah, you know. That's the third thing. The fourth thing is the position taken and the claims made are well supported. In other words, there's lots of evidence.
There you go.
So they could give examples, extended examples. They could give factual information, statistics, whatever they have. But it's well supported. And then the fifth thing is the writer is respectful of alternative positions. In other words, they recognize that there are going to be people who contest what they say.
Yeah.
And they're respectful of those opposing views, right? But they also provide an argument against those views.
Exactly.
Okay, so they provide a rebuttal. Okay,
I see.
and then the sixth thing is that they're grammatically and mechanically sound. So it's not the most important thing. It's the sixth most important
But
thing.
it is there.
It's there.
Yeah.
But it's not the most important thing.
Yeah.
It wouldn't, if they had a really good argument and took a really unique position and they supported their argument really well, I'm not going to say no because the grammar's horrible, right?
Yeah.
What I might do though is if there's two of them that both are equally unique and both of them equally well supported arguments and really sound evidence, but one is very well styled, right? Very, very, when you read it, it's really easy to read, it's coherent. The word choices are really kind of ideal. They work really well. The register's right, everything about it. The appeals are good. But this one over here, the grammar's not so good. So if I'm comparing those two, one might be the winner and the other one might be a runner-up. Okay, so they wouldn't get the top prize. Okay.
Yeah.
And the last thing is the first place is distinguished from the runners-up by the degree to which the persuasive original argument has been developed. Okay. The depth and sophistication of the argument's framework, and the level of familiarity with and understanding of relevant social issues and implications. In other words, they did some reading and research.
I see.
Yeah, and they were critical. They understood beyond that. They extended. They really understood the implications of what was happening here.
Yeah.
So, and they articulated it. Okay.
Perfect.
Yeah.
I got all what I wanted to hear.
So
I
that's
made you
these are our
say it.
criteria.
Yeah, but these aren't the same. You know? These are like widely accepted criteria if you are looking for someone to win a writing contest or something. So
Yeah, I want to be convinced. When I read an argument, I want to be excited by the argument and I want to be convinced. And if there's usually the grammatical issues are not really serious. Like they would be maybe like typos or a missing word or possibly a misspelling. Punctuation's usually the worst. Usually it's really bad punctuation because they don't really, secondary school, they don't really know, it's not their fault. Nobody teaches them. And then there's a lot of dumb rules out there too. Like, put a comma anywhere you would normally take a breath, and that's a rule. To some school teachers, that's what they say. And I actually saw that printed in a newspaper here. There was an ad that was talking. There was an article talking about an ad for Bertie Ahern back in the early 2000s, and they made that claim that you should put a comma anywhere where you take a breath. And all I could think is, well, what if you have asthma? You'd be taking a breath every 5 seconds, It's just like So it doesn't. It's a bad rule, right?
It is.
There's reasons to use commas, and there's rules for using commas. And if you understand the rules, but you have to also understand sentence grammar in order to understand how to use commas. So
perfect. I think we're done with today's video.
Cool. Good stuff. All right. All right.
Thank you. All right, so see you in another video.
That's a deal.
Okay.
All right. That's a deal.